Hey everyone, Sky here to discuss Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, starring Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, Emma Watson, Robbie Coltrane, Michael Gambon, Richard Griffiths, Gary Oldman, Alan Rickman, Fiona Shaw, and Maggie Smith, and directed by Alfonso Cuarón. Now, I remember seeing this and not being too excited about it going into the movie theaters. Look at my review of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets last week. Let's just get into this. Harry Potter, returned by Daniel Radcliffe, uses his magic light while waking Uncle Vernon up in the middle of the night, returned by Richard Griffiths. And I really do like that opening sequence, and I hate Vernon's mother, Marge, because she orders Harry by snapping her fingers, and she's led to believe Harry's father is a drunk and calling her mother a dog. And Harry forces himself to make her very big and floaty like a balloon. And I just found funny while that happens. And while that happens, the clock goes cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. That sequence was fun, but I still don't like Aunt Marge or whatever the hell her name is. Harry runs out of the Dursleys' house and sees something creepy about to attack him, which looks like a werewolf, which we'll find out throughout the rest of the movie that it might be. And the night bus appears and gets on the bus that goes Speedy and Skinny a couple of times until Harry arrives in London at Leaky Cauldron, while Muggles can't see them, and I get the impression Muggles are very stupid. That was a very funny sequence. Harry goes back to the Wizarding World, finding out Sirius Black, played by Gary Oldman, has escaped from Azkaban prison, in which Hagrid was by the end of the Chamber of Secrets. And Harry finds out he was part of the reason Harry's parents are dead. And it was nice we go through that sequence slowly throughout the movie. And I did like that, but I don't like the scene when a book is acting like a barking attack dog. It just felt too odd and too stupid for this movie. Harry runs into Ron, and returned by Rupert Grint, and the Weasleys, who come back from Egypt, and Hermione, returned by Emma Watson, and I like they have more to do than the first two, including an awkward situation, which I'll get to in a few minutes. Harry gets his face sucked on, and we get introduced to Professor Lupin, played by David Thewlis, who's going to be back in the later movies, who's the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. And I like this actor. I've reviewed him before about 3 times in three movies. One of them is part of a series, and one of them is part of something else. So let's see what they are. We get Albus Dumbledore, now played by Michael Gambon, and I like him as Dumbledore, and it's just a shame that Richard Harris is now dead. He's second best, in my opinion, until maybe we get to Jude Law later this year. We'll see what happens. Professor Sybil Trelawney, played by Emma Thompson, feels like a wicked in a weird kind of way, and Hermione disses her and thinks she talks a bunch of rubbish. That's what they're saying in the movie, by the way, folks. I'm not making this up. And I honestly do like Emma Thompson, but the character was just weird, in my opinion. Rubeus Hagrid, returned by Robbie Coltrane, teaches a class of a half-animal, half-bird kind of animal, and Harry gets on it, and after he pets it and flies the creature, and it looks like fun. And Malfoy, returned by Tom Felton, gets what he deserves for trying to be a Mr. Tough Guy against the creature, which was great, but sometimes it feels like Ron and Hermione have some kind of awkward moments throughout the series, or this movie, for example, starting here, take that back, starting with the end of part 2, that they're in love, which we'll find out in the later movies. Professor Lupin teaches the class, and I like how Neville's frightened by Professor Snape, returned by Alan Rickman, and Ron thinks of a spider, and Neville puts a spell on Snape to make him look like his grandmother, and Ron makes a spider with slippers. It was just so great. I like the scene in this movie. It sounds beautiful. I like the score in this movie, by the way. It sounds beautiful. And I want to credit John Williams because he's a score genius. Woohoo! And I love the way Snape says, "Turn to page 394." And they talk about werewolves, and I always find Alan Rickman bloody brilliant. And we move on to a Quidditch game where Harry tries to get to the golden snitch from the sky, and next thing you know, a Death Eater gets Harry down while the other Seeker gets electrocuted, and Harry passes out in the hospital. That scene was great, I guess. Well, no, take that back. It was great. What am I saying that for? I like the map that Fred and George show Harry a map to get to town next to Hogwarts with Harry's invisible cloak, and the scene while Harry's invisible, Ron and Hermione run into Malfoy and his goon friends, and suddenly there throws a snowball at Malfoy. I thought that was so funny. I like how Harry finds out Sirius Black was a friend of Harry's parents, and Harry has a godfather who is it? It's Sirius Black himself. And I like how that's resolved about how he was part responsible of Harry's parents' death. I love the cinematography in this movie, and it's so beautiful looking. And there's some very beautiful, great shots. And Michael Surson, who's the cinematographer here, and is the cinematographer of the last two of these movies. He's an amazing cinematographer. I will give him that much. I enjoyed how Hermione punches Malfoy in the face. It was just bloody brilliant. It was really funny, and I said this before and I'll say it again. Malfoy deserves what he gets in this movie. Malfoy feels like the biggest baby here than in the first two. Harry and Hermione tries to go after Ron, and Ron gets captured by a werewolf in a tree that's supposed to be dangerous, throws Harry and Hermione around to where Ron and his pet rat Scabbers turns out to be a man named Wormtail or some... Yeah, Wormtail. Or, as they call him, Peter Pettigrew, which I'll get to in a second. They meet Sirius Black and Lupin, and Snape comes in and mucks things up in the scene, and Harry puts Snape down, and I like the twist that it is Wormtail, aka Peter Pettigrew, played by Timothy Spall, who I really enjoyed in this particular movie, for example. And I really like this actor. All this time, it was Peter, not Sirius, who was the reason Harry's parents are dead. I do like the twist also where Lupin is a werewolf, and same with Sirius, and Alfonso Cuarón, who's the director of this movie. I really enjoy his twists and turns in this movie, in my opinion. We are led to believe that Harry saw his father while he fainted by the Death Eaters between him and Sirius Black, and saves Harry. Harry and Hermione go back in time starting earlier at 7:30 a.m. the day before, when Hermione punched Malfoy in the face. And they go to Hagrid's place and throw rocks at their own bodies. From the day before Harry and Hermione let the half-animal, half-bird creature go, and they go back to where they met Sirius, Lupin, and Peter. And suddenly Lupin, we go back to him, almost killed Sirius until Hermione sounds like a werewolf, leading to Harry and Sirius at the lake, but instead of it being Harry's father, it was Harry who saved himself at the lake, being Harry's father, but it was Harry... Oh, I already said that. Who saved himself at the lake, and everything turns out to be good, where Lupin is no longer a teacher of defense against the dark arts. And Harry gets a new, faster broomstick and has fun flying with it. And that as an ending was fun for me. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 8.2 out of 10. This is a well-shot, well-made, and well-scored Harry Potter scored movie. This is the prettiest looking Harry Potter film by far. I like the new characters better here than last time, and theirs is almost a better time than the Chamber of Secrets. Still not as good as the first one, but a great time at the movies. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next week I will be back with Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. And until next time, sunshine daisies, turn the stupid camera off.